Good morning, everybody. I'm Pete Najarian, and this is The Take on a Thursday morning. And if we look back to Wednesday, well, in the morning hours, we already had the catalyst that absolutely rocketed the markets to the upside. And what was that? Well, Gilead and some of the promising trial results that they had. And Gilead off to the races, but that absolutely exploded the NASDAQ. And the dislocation that we've seen now that's been playing out not every single day, but almost every day, it seems like, for the month of April, has been the outperformance of the NASDAQ. And a lot of people have actually even narrowed it down that much more to say the Big Five or the Big 10. Well, that's true, but the NASDAQ itself absolutely has been the outperformer, and it was certainly the outperformer yesterday. When we look across, NASDAQ was up about 3.5% yesterday. S&P and the Dow, they were up 2.25%, 2.5%, somewhere in that sort of a range. But it gives you a little bit of an idea of just how big of an outperformance that we were seeing in the NASDAQ, and directly go right at the tech stocks themselves. They were absolutely exploding yesterday. It was Tesla, Microsoft, Facebook, Apple, Intel, Amazon, Google, you name it. Google's had this explosive move to the upside. Those names that I just read off to you, they were up anywhere between 2.5% to over 10%. Just an explosive move to the upside. But it was not just tech yesterday. And we had movement out of all kinds of different areas. It was the financials with an explosive move up about 3% yesterday. Energy just continues to be this source of interesting trade, whether oil's going up or down, and some of the interpretations of that actually roll over into some of these energy stocks, energy companies, in terms of some of the recovery. Take a look at what's gone on in Chevron over the last, call it 2 weeks or so, and the movement to the upside. Well, the XLE yesterday up about 7.5%. Materials continue to be very, very strong. We had a big move and a nice strength once again out of tech resources. We saw it in FCX. The casino stocks, another area where it's been very, very strong of late. Not every single day, but we've seen that constant move to the upside. It's been in Las Vegas Sands. It's moved over to MGM, which has been very strong, and Wynn itself. So we are seeing exactly this play out. Now, the volumes yesterday were explosive. We haven't seen volumes like this for a while. We've talked about some of these weaker times in terms of volume and a little bit stronger times in volume, but now we had a big day yesterday. We traded nearly 31 million contracts yesterday. So that was a monstrous day. So a lot of participation there on this huge move to the upside. The options world absolutely exploding. Now, what wasn't exploding, it was imploding, was the VIX was down about 7%. We still are in this range of about 30 to 35. Now, we trade around a 31 VIX yesterday. Give or take, that's where we were closing. Today, we're seeing a little bit of a difference, and I'll tell you why that's happening. But last night, big earnings out of three monsters, and they delivered generally across the board. You look at Facebook, look at Tesla, look at Microsoft, winners, winners, winners across. Now, Facebook exploded to the upside last night in the after hours. We haven't seen it at those levels today. And as we roll into today, we may as well roll into today. What are we really seeing? Well, the markets themselves, they rapidly pulled back. And I think a lot of this had to do with these jobless claims, because once again, slaps you in the face a little bit to see what these numbers really look like. And unfortunately, the losses that we have seen and the jobless losses that we're seeing right now, this has really been a problem. And these numbers just continue to elevate. And it's been something that's been absolutely a wet blanket for the markets. And that was absolutely how the markets reacted today. We have a big sharp move to the downside. As a matter of fact, we pushed down almost immediately. Those first 30 minutes of the day or so, we were down near the lows so far of the session. We're about 90 plus minutes into the trading day right now, but we were down 1.5% in the Dow. The NASDAQ, again, dislocation there, only down about 0.5%. Matter of fact, now I look at the NASDAQ, it's flat. The Dow down about 1%, and the S&P down a little less than 1%. So what are we seeing really playing out? Well, we still got earnings season. We got some big names. We got Apple, we have Amazon, and all the rest of that. But Tesla and Facebook and Microsoft, they've been carrying the weight, and they've been moving to the upside, and they are to the upside right now. All three names positive territory, but not nearly as strong as they were last night, and maybe in the early parts of the pre-market until we started to get into this negative side of the markets. And we're down about 230 points right now in the Dow. So we're well more than 100 off of the lows, but we've had a pretty volatile session. And with that volatility in the session, we're trading at about a 33.5 VIX right now. So Volatility starting to move back up to the upside. I talk about that range, and I've been bringing that up day after day. The range of, call it 30 to 35 for the volatility index. And that's telling you expect a 2% move every single day. 32 is going to give you that. Here we are at 33.5, and I've read off to you a couple of times of how much we were down early, about 1.5%, and how much we're down now, about 1%. But it gives you an idea of what kind of movement that we're really seeing in the marketplace. Now, one of those names that's fighting that movement for a lot of fundamental reasons of how they're trying to figure out how they're going to be capitalized in different ways, Boeing. And if you look at Boeing, that stands out right now. UNH stands out right now because positive territory, strong moves to the upside while the Dow is down as much as it is right now. So that really is something that's interesting, and we've been following all this unusual activity. We had an unbelievable amount yesterday, just an unbelievable amount of unusual option activity across the board. Probably one of my busier days in a really long time of trimming, adding, and eliminating on these positions. So really was wild. Now, that leads me into something about the earnings themselves and how that's been playing out. And we obviously still have Apple. We obviously still have Amazon. There's going to be some numbers, and it's so difficult to read through these, but I think we really did get far more clarity than we would have expected yesterday when we heard from Facebook. And Facebook kind of dovetailed really nicely with what we'd heard from Google and some of the ads and the strength there. And I think the other thing, and it wasn't brought up enough, but when you look at Facebook, you look at these verticals that they have created, and all of a sudden you look over and you see what they're doing in competition to a Zoom. It just shows you that's one more vertical. It's one more area where they could have some strength. And Instagram, WhatsApp, Messenger, all of these different things. Marketplace, I don't think that was talked about at all yesterday by anybody that I heard, but Marketplace, on fire right now, as everybody is in their homes and the shutdowns, all the rest of that. And it just is amazing how many different areas that Facebook can cover. And Marketplace, another one of those areas where a lot of activity. We've used it a lot, probably more in the last month and a half, call it 6 weeks, than we've ever used it up to that point. So, and it's something I think we'll use more and more of as everybody's cleaning out and doing all the things that they're doing. They're finding things that might have some value. They're putting them up on Marketplace, and they're getting rid of them and doing it in a safe way, of course. But that's been in the process as well. Now, I always love to give you guys a little unusual option activity. And this one, it stood out almost immediately when it hit. It was only the second unusual of the day that hit. We've already got about 10 or 15 right now on the Market Rebellion site. But now in April, Las Vegas Sands has hit now over 4 times. This is the 5th time it's hit. And the first couple of times it hit, it was trading about $40, $40.75. The next time it hit around when the stock was trading 41 or so. Now with the stock trading 48.5, we're seeing buyers again of June. They were buying June 50s last time. This time they're buying these June 60 calls, about 75 cents for about 5,500 of these calls. Why that stands out is we heard from Sheldon Adelson in terms of how they're doing in terms of the restart potentials of Macau and of when similar. We're hearing more and more from a lot of the casino operators about how they see things going into the future, and obviously awaiting Vegas to restart, as other states are also beginning to restart. As a matter of fact, later on today, if you want to join into a Zoom call, I'm going to be sitting down with the Atlanta Black Chamber and talking about what's going on in the markets and what my visions are in the markets. And that's a state down there in Georgia that's one of those that's very progressively trying to restart as they can. So we all know how difficult it was to stop the whole thing down and how difficult it was going to be and probably will be for us to get things started up again. But somebody's starting out, and it looks like Georgia's going to be kind of on the front lines of this whole thing. So we'll see how this plays out, and hopefully keeping fingers crossed that things go well. Guys, Market Rebellion, we're here to educate. We're here to try to give you ideas and have an understanding of what's going on in the markets. The derivatives markets are always growing. You heard me talk about 30 million contracts. Every single day we have seen impressive numbers relative to previous years, but we've been digesting those numbers because we've had so much to digest. But the volumes in this market, the derivatives market, is incredible and continues to grow. So you need to be educated. You need to understand that. Market Rebellion is just one of many places, but I think the best place to get educated and understand all of what's going on in the derivatives market so you can understand the markets that much better. Folks, have a great day of trading.